I guess and I believe all of you were able to complete yesterday's assignments of creating an AMI and then restoring an EC2 AMI, correct? And see how the instance is actually coming back, correct? And also I hope you all did a good reading about snapshot lifecycle manager, elastic network interfaces, and also elastic IP addresses, right? So just a quick recap. What is elastic network interface? Elastic network interface is the NIC card attached to your EC2 instance. You can attach multiple elastic network interfaces. The IP address for the elastic network interface would actually come from your subnet or the VPC. Okay, it will come from the VPC, but it will come from the subnet range of IP address. Okay, and those IP addresses are actually attached to your EC2 instance, which forms the private IP address of your EC2 instance. Whereas elastic IP address is an IP address which Amazon provides, which is a public IPv4 IP address. Okay, we have to understand that very clearly. It's a public IPv4 IP address, which is allocated to your account. Okay, and you can in turn attach it with a EC2 instance. Okay, of a network interface of an EC2 instance. So you have a network interface which has a private side of IP address, right? So you can actually attach a public side of IP address with the help of elastic IP addresses. Okay, so that's where elastic IP addresses are useful. And if you don't want your IP address of your public subnet EC2 instance to be changing, right? You can actually attach it to, you can attach elastic, you can allocate an elastic IP address and attach it to an EC2 instance. So that way, the IP address of that never changes. Okay, so now that's a quick recap of what we did, what we learned yesterday. Okay, so today what we are going to learn is we're going to learn a couple of more things on EC2 itself. So that way we kind of complete EC2 before we jump into the other topics. Okay, one is I'm going to show you, how to provision a Windows server on EC2. Till now you have been provisioning only Linux servers, right? I'm going to show you how to provision a Windows server. Okay, and also I'm going to show you, how you can use the user data section of an EC2 instance to automate things, right? So where you all learned shell scripting, correct? So you can actually put a shell script on the EC2 console itself while you're provisioning an EC2 instance. So when the EC2 instance boots up, the shell script runs. That's basically a user data. It's called user data that runs, and then it will basically help you automate your EC2 instance. Okay, so we're going to see those today. Okay, just give me a second. Let me bring up my EC2 console, and I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Okay. So I have my console. I'm just going to pull up. I'll share my screen. Okay. Okay. So I have my EC2. I'm going to my EC2 console. So this is my EC2 console, and so I have an elastic IP attached to my EC2 instance, right? So elastic IP is a permanent public IPv4 IP address attached to your, allocated to your account, which is attached to your network interface of your EC2 instance. So if you have two network interfaces, you can attach your elastic IP addresses to one of the network interfaces, right? If it is Linux, it is ETH0, ETH1. That's how the network interfaces are sequenced, correct? So you can attach it to ETH0 or ETH1. Okay, so that's how you go ahead and attach your elastic IP addresses. Okay, cool. So now first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate to you how you can provision Windows instances. Okay. You don't have to provision Windows instances because again, Windows instances are charged. Okay. If you want, there's actually one free tier Windows instance available. If you want, you can provision that, but ensure that you terminate it as soon as you're done with it because it's pretty much the same. 95% the process is the same. The only change would be in terms of how you connect to the Windows instance. Okay, I'll launch an instance and show you. I'm just going to launch an instance. So here, instead of selecting an Amazon Linux 2, let me type Windows in the search bar and search for Windows. So you get so many Windows flavors, right? Where you see Windows 2019 base, Windows 2019 base with containers, right? Which has got Dockers enabled in it, Dockers installed in it. Okay, all of you know what a Docker container, right? It has a Docker installed in it, and there's a Windows Server 2019 with SQL Server. SQL Server is a database. Okay, like all of you learned Oracle, correct? Ravi sir taught you Oracle during the initial days, right? So now SQL Server is again another RDBMS, which is built by Microsoft. Yeah, it comes with the SQL Server license. Here it's a 2019 with SQL Server 2017 enterprise license. Here to SQL Server 2019 standard. So there are so many AMIs that are there. Okay, one word of caution here. If you select any of these AMIs, which has Microsoft Windows Server 2019 with SQL Server 2017 standard, where you don't have free tier eligible, you're going to be charged heavily because what AWS is doing is AWS is actually charging you for the compute. Like say, for example, you provision a T2.small or T2.micro or T2.large. It is actually charging for the compute charges. That is number one. Number two, it is also charging for your Windows Server 2019 license because it's not a free operating system. Correct? Windows is not free like Linux. Linux is free, right? Anybody can use it, but Windows is not free. Right? Windows Microsoft charges a license for Windows, right? Like at home computers, we all have Windows license, Windows 10. Correct? I mean, it's licensed. You have to pay for it. Plus, apart from that, it also has a SQL Server 2017 standard version pre-installed as part of the AMI, right? Like how we did a Apache pre-installation yesterday and use that to create an AMI. So similarly, SQL Server 2017 is pre-installed as part of that Windows instance. Okay, so now you're going to be charged for Windows Server, SQL Server, right? And it's going to be a bit expensive affair. So I would say don't go for that. Even if you want to try, just try only this one, Windows 2019 base, Microsoft Windows Server 2019 base, which is the base, which just comes with a standard operating system, nothing else. And free tier is eligible for it. Okay, I'm selecting that. I'll go only for T2.micro because that is free. Click on next configure instance. Okay, here again, you can use the same set of things, right? So you put it in a public subnet so that you're able to connect to the Windows instance from the public subnet. Okay, from your internet, right? And keep everything same, nothing changes here, right? Just keep everything as it is. Then click on add storage. Okay, Windows needs slightly higher storage, right? Unlike Linux. Linux needs just 8 GB of root volume because I think its operating system is about 5 to 6 GB. So additional 2 GB is for any additional growth. But Windows is not like that. Windows takes about 10, 12 GB for the operating system itself, right? So that's why 30 GB is given here for Windows. And leave everything as it is. Next, add tags, add a new tag, name my Windows Server. Okay, and then say next, configure security group. Okay. So here, create a new security group. Okay, here you will see that it is different. Okay, because since you selected Windows Server, the AWS Management Console is intelligent enough to say what ports needs to be opened to connect to your Windows server, to remote desktop into your Windows server. Okay, Windows server is not like Windows is not like Linux, right? Where you use SSH and you use through port 22 and you connect. Here you use a protocol called RDP, remote desktop protocol. The TCP port is 3389. Okay, just you create this new security group and just name it as Windows RDP SG. Okay, just copy and paste it in the description also. Yeah, just say next, review and launch. Yeah, so in review and launch, just launch it. Here again, select the same key. Whatever key that you had selected for Linux instance, you can use the same key here. RPL-Mumbai-lab. Okay, so logging into Windows works slightly differently. I'm going to shortly show you how it works, but use the same key and then say launch instance. Okay, so now when you say launch instance, it would actually come in. It would start spinning up the Windows instance, and that also would get a public IP address because it is in the public subnet, AP South 1A, public subnet. Yeah. So let's just wait, and it also gets a private IP address like 10.01.105. So let's just give it a minute or two, because usually Windows instances take a slightly longer time to, it provisioned already. Okay, usually it takes a slightly longer time to provision. Okay, so it's up and running. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take the IP address, copy the IP address, and I'm going to go to my Windows. I mean, I'm going to do all of you have got a Windows, right? So now most of you have got Windows 10 or Windows 8, right? So here, what you do is click on Start menu, okay, and then say remote desktop connection. Just type remote, you will get this remote desktop connection. Okay, select that remote desktop connection, and then it's going to give a small pop-up. So out there in the pop-up, paste the public IP address. Okay, paste the public IP address and say connect. Yeah, so it's connected to the EC2 instance, the Windows EC2 instance, but it's asking for username and password, right? So by default, it has a username and password, which is generated dynamically at the time of provisioning the instance. Now, how do we retrieve that username and password? Okay, there is a way to retrieve that. Go back to your EC2 console, select the Windows server, and click on connect on the top. Click on connect, right? And then select the RDP client as the option here on the right side, the second option, RDP client. And what you do is click on get password. Okay, you see, this is the public DNS of my Windows server which I provision. This is the default username that it has, administrator, right? Usually Windows has got an administrator as the username. Now I need to know the password. What is the password? Click on get password. So now, how do you get the password? To get the password, you need to use your key that you selected while provisioning the EC2 instance, which is RPL-Mumbai-lab. Same key which we use for Linux also, right? Nothing different. You have to browse the key pair. Let me browse the key pair, right? I'm just going to go to my keys, RPL-Mumbai-lab. I'll select that key pair from the Explorer and then say open, right? And it's actually going to give me the key. I'm not going to show this entire key. So now then you say decrypt password. So it's going to basically put a key, right? Or you can open that file from a notepad, copy that key, paste it here. If you don't want to browse and open it, you can also do that way also. Either ways, you can either browse the key file directly, it will paste the key file here, or you can copy the key, private key from the PEM file, right? Not the PPK, PEM file. So copy the PEM file and paste it here, and then say decrypt password. Okay, so what it does is it decrypts the password using the key. So at the end of the day, key is still your entry, right? So here it has decrypted the password. This is the password. If you see, this is a very, very strong password, impossible, difficult to break. Okay, see, it has got alphanumeric with special characters. Okay, lowercase, uppercase, and about maybe about 20-25 characters long, correct? It's very, very difficult to break this password. So copy this password. Okay, come back to your RDP connection and say administrator and paste the password here. Okay, if you just select this, yeah, it has pasted the password and click on OK. Yeah, it's going to give you this small certificate thing, which you also get in Linux, right? When you connect it, it first time it asks you yes or no, right? Just give yes. Yeah. So you're actually on 65.0.74.4, which is your public EC2 instance of Windows. Okay, it's loading up. It will be a bit slow because for Windows, a T2.micro instance is too small. The compute capacity is not that high. So it's going to be a bit slow, but that's okay. I mean, just say no here, but that's okay. You will be able to actually, yeah, it runs some scripts as part of bootstrapping. It sets the DHCP, and also on the right side, if you see, it's going to show a small uh, pane on the right side. So you got it. So you have the small pane which tells you what is the host name, what is the instance ID, what is the public IP address, what is the private IP address, what is the instance size, right? T2.micro, which availability zone, what is the architecture, what is the total memory, things like that. 1 GB of memory it has got. So now you have a Windows server. You can actually perform any activities that you want using PowerShell, or I mean, you can use it to host IaaS. Okay, anything which is based on Windows, you can use this to host your applications, build your databases and things like that, build SQL Server and all of that. You can actually use it. Okay, so that's the way you provision Windows servers. Okay, so now I'm going to just close this, or I'll just minimize this, or let me just go back. I'm going to terminate this Windows instance. I'll just say cancel. Everything is same. I mean, I'll go back to the Windows instance. If you see, you go here and open the network adapter. It's going to show you. I'll go to the control panel actually. Network and internet. Network sharing center. Change adapter settings. Yeah, so it's going to show you what is the IP address and everything. It has got only one network adapter, right? One NIC card. So now if you attach an additional NIC card, you'll do the same way, right? Let's do that. Okay, let's go ahead and attach one additional NIC card. How do you do it? You go to network interfaces, create a new network interface. Just say Windows NIC 2. I'm just giving that. And then subnet is 1A. Yeah, I mean, let it be an auto assign IP address. I don't want to mention that. Yeah, that's it. And what is the RDP? You select this security group for that security group. Create it. So now this has created Windows NIC 2, right? It's created the Windows NIC 2. So select that and say actions, attach it to your Windows server, attach. Yeah, so it's attached to your Windows server. Let's wait for this to complete. Yeah, so it's attached to the Windows server. I'll go back to my Windows server. You see, you get the second one. So you got the second network interface available to your Windows server. Okay, Ethernet 3 is the name. That also has got a 1 Gbps. So now it has 10.0.1.2.35. Okay, 10.0.1.2.35 is the IP address of your second network interface. The first network interface is 10.0.1.1.0.5. Okay, so that's how you, and also I'll show you how to how many disks are there. Right now there's only one disk, right? There's only C drive. Go to this PC. Yeah, there's only one C drive of 30 GB. Out of that, 16 GB is already gone, right? Because Windows occupies a lot of space for their operating system files. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more disk. But before I add the disk, let me show you the disk management. Right click on start menu, then you get disk management here. Select open disk management and you see that you're having only one disk. So you have only one disk C drive, which is a primary partition, right? So let's add a second EBS volume to that. I'm just going to volumes, create a volume, general purpose. I'll just say 30 GB, additional 30 GB, AP South 1A, because that's where my volume, that's where my EC2 instance is there. I'll add a tag, name, Windows data volume. That's the name that I'm giving. Create volume. Yeah, so let the volume just get created. Yeah, volume is created. So now let me select the Windows data volume, actions, attach volume. I'll attach it to my Windows instance, my Windows server. Okay. Forget about this. This you don't have to give a path here. Just leave it default. Just attach it. Let it get attached. Yeah, it's attached. It's in use. So now let me go back. You see that immediately you get the second disk attached to the EC2 instance, right? But what you need to do, because it's you still don't have the D drive here, right? Now you need to right click that and you have to create a new volume out of it. Bring it online. Right click. Okay, so then right click. Okay, then initialize it. Yeah, just initialize the disk with MBR master boot record. That's what Windows follows. Yeah, so it's there, and then right click on the partition and say new simple volume. And then you can do, if you want, you can split it into two, right? 15 GB, 15 GB, right? Just say 15,000. Okay, just say next. And assign volume D to it. Just say, yeah, perform a quick format. Just say data one is the volume name and volume label that I'm giving with NTFS as the partition. Yeah, finish. Yeah, so it's allocated 15 GB to the, I can again allocate the next 15 GB to the E drive. So if you see, D drive would be there. So you get D drive here, 15 GB. So next, again right click, new simple volume. Next, allocate whatever is there. And then assign E, next, data 2. Next, finish. Yeah, so we have created a D drive, E drive. You can add files to D drive. New file, new text file. File, save, yeah, close it. Yeah, test file is there in D drive. So that's how you basically, and all the other concepts apply here also, like taking snapshots, restoring from snapshots, right? And when you take a snapshot of a Windows file system, right? I mean, you can only mount it in Windows because of the file system differences between Windows and Linux. Okay, so that way, you can do the same things, whatever steps that you followed, right? You can follow the same steps. Instead of passing Linux commands, it will be Windows activities from the console, from the Windows operating system. It's a graphical user interface, right? Okay, cool. I think that kind of, gives you an idea of how to provision Windows instances. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean up everything. I don't need this. Let me detach volume. Okay, once you detach volume, that will go away. See, my D drive and E drive has gone away. Okay, let me detach the volume and I'm going to delete the volume. Yeah, I'll just delete it. I'll go back to my EC2 instance. I'll deprovision my EC2 instance state, terminate instance, Windows Server, terminate. Yeah, so you have successfully terminated the Windows instance. Yeah, so Windows is gone. You see, it got disconnected. If you go for remote desktop, again try to remote desktop to it, it won't be able to do it. It will say that connection timed out. Okay, all right. So that's basically on how to provision Windows servers and how to deal with Windows servers. Okay, so now let's move to user data, right? So now what is user data, right? If you would have observed when you created EC2 instances, correct? So when I provision and I select Linux, say next configure details, and in the third step, which is configure instance, on the bottom, you have something called user data, the advanced details. I forgot about these. I mean, user data is the most important thing here. User data is basically an ability or a facility, that feature that that AWS is giving, with which you can run a script during the launch of an EC2 instance. When the EC2 instance gets launched, the script, whatever you pass here, will get automatically launched. Okay, so you want to see how it works? I'll just give you an example. Okay, you did yesterday's example, correct? So in yesterday, what did you do? You created a new, provisioned a new EC2 instance, and then you did a update. You logged into, you put it into the EC2 instance. You did an update, and then you installed an web server. Then you started that web server, right? After that, you and then after that, you created a new file called /html hello world. Correct. All of this you did, right? Now all of this can be done using the user data. So you don't even have to log into the EC2 instance. You provision an EC2 instance. When you provision the EC2 instance, you pass the script to the EC2 instance. When the EC2 instance comes up, the script automatically gets executed. All that you mentioned within the script will get executed, and whatever actions that you've mentioned in the script will get executed seamlessly without the user needing to log into the EC2 instance and perform these steps manually. Okay, that's the advantage of user data, right? So now, yeah, I'll give you this link later. But so when you launch an instance in Amazon EC2, you have the option of passing user data to the instance that can be used to perform common automated configuration tasks and even run scripts after the instance starts. You can pass two types of user data to Amazon EC2: shell script and cloud init directives, right? Shell scripts. Now you can connect. Now you know, all of you are experts in shell script by now, correct? So you can pass shell script. You can also pass this data in the launch wizard as a plain text, as a file. This is used for launching using the command line tools. Okay, if you are interested in more complex automation scenarios, you can consider using AWS CloudFormation or OpsWorks. That's okay. We'll come back to that. Okay, this is how do you run the same on Windows instances. This is how you run use that user data property in Windows instances. Okay, you pass the user data scripts in Windows as a script tag. Okay, so if you just go down. Okay, so read through those prerequisites, but what we are going to do is to ensure that we go ahead and run the script out here, right? You can read through this later. Okay, so if you see here, in this example below, specify instance user data at launch, right? So this is our familiar shell script, right? All of us are aware of the shell script. First, you start with the shebang. So then you say yum update -y, where it updates all the packages, right? So then you're installing some additional things. You're installing MariaDB, right? MariaDB is a database. Okay, so you're installing MariaDB, and you're basically installing the MariaDB server. Then you're also starting. Okay, here you're installing both HTTPD and MariaDB server. You're installing Apache Web Server, and you're starting the Apache web server. Okay, and then what you're doing is you are installing a PHP, uh, in your root directory of HTTP at var www. Okay, so now we don't have to follow all of this. Let's write a very simple script. Okay, I'm just opening my this thing. Let's write a very simple script. Yes, copy this. Just going to put it here. I need the shebang. I'll use the shebang. Okay, and I'm going to do sudo, right? I'm not going to just keep it like that. I don't need this. Okay, and then I'll say sudo yum install -y. I don't need MariaDB server. I'm only using HTTPD. So the moment you give -y, it does not wait for the user to press yes or no, right? So that's why whenever you're using an automated script, unattended installation, it's called unattended installation. Whenever you follow an unattended installation, you have to give -y in the command, in the shell script command. Okay, should never give without -y. Otherwise, what will happen is it'll keep waiting for a user to press yes as enter. No user is going to sit and press yes as enter, right? So it will keep waiting. It will wait till infinity until you kill the instance. Then you will be wondering what's actually happening to that instance. I mean, what's gone wrong? Okay, then you start sudo systemctl. Again, systemctl is a command which helps start the processes. Sudo systemctl enable httpd. Okay, I'm going to remove all of this. Okay, I'm going to remove all of this. I'm going to actually go to cd/var/www. I'm just going there, and here I'm actually going to create a new file. Okay, so now what you do is you can actually cat something into a new file, right? How do you do it in Linux? Just go here. I'll just show you. See it timed out here. Okay. I'll connect to my EC2 instance. Putty. My public EC2 instance 37.6. Save it. I go to my var www. Okay. So here, what you can do is you can actually do a sudo cat or touch. You can also do a touch. Okay. Sudo touch. Go to HTML. Sorry, go to HTML. CD HTML. Sudo touch new.html. Okay, which should take the input from. Just give her this thing ht. Okay, let's look up the command. Using touch command to create a file. Next with examples. Okay, can also run a simple echo. Okay, all right, let's go with echo then. Okay, so you can just say echo double quotes, single quotes, echo single quotes, HTML hello world slash HTML greater than index1.html sudo. To do it as sudo. Just do a sudo su, then run the echo. Yeah, it has created index1.html. Cat index1.html. This has hello world, right? Okay, let's follow the same thing. So now let's go back. So cd slash where www, make it sudo su. Okay, and then echo HTML h1 hello RPL champs slash h1 slash HTML greater than index.html. Okay, so you've created an index.html there, and you've just added it there. Okay. What else is pending now? Enable HTTPD. You also have to start the service. Sudo service HTTPD start. That's it. So now the HTTPD service will get started. Okay. So now let's see whether all these steps are independently working fine. Just check this.
അമ്മേ അമ്മേ കുറിപ്പിൽ കുറച്ച് കാര്യം.
Okay, so yeah, it's started now. So it's running. So I think we are good with this. Let's just go ahead and put this in our EC2 instance. Okay, I'm just going to EC2 instances, launch instance, Amazon Linux, T2 micro, next configure instance details, put it in your public subnet because you want this to be a web server, correct? And you want this script to be running. Put it in a public subnet. Come down here, you have user data. Select as text and then paste this entire thing there. Shebang sudo yum update y, sudo yum install -y httpd, sudo systemctl start httpd, enable httpd. Then you are changing directory to cd slash where www slash html. Okay, forgot about html, right? Yeah, cd slash where slash www slash html. Then you're doing a sudo su. Then you're creating a new file called index.html. Okay, and then you're pasting this content into that index.html. Then you're doing a sudo service httpd start. Okay, so we're good. So now let me just go add storage. Yeah, let it be by default. I'll add a new tag, EC2 instance user data, or I'll just say user data demo. EC2 user data demo. If you have a security group, just leave it by default, or you can use your security group, okay, which you have already created, which is public SSH access all, okay, where you are allowing 000 from for port 80, which is public. Next, review and launch. Yeah, take a look at it and then just say next. Use your RPL mobile app. In fact, you don't even have to log into that instance. Okay, I'll show you. The website will be up and running. Yeah, just say launch instance. Yeah. Okay, so it's kind of coming up. Let's wait for it to complete all these steps that we mentioned here. Okay, it'll take a while, right? It'll take about 2 to 3, 5 minutes for all these steps to be completed. Once these steps are completed, I'm not even SSHing into my EC2 instance. Without logging into my EC2 instance, I have built my website. I have deployed my website. My website will be up and running. Just wait and watch. Okay, let me just put it. Let's just give it a few minutes. What's the time now? 9:50, right? Let's come back and check at 9:52. I'm just going on mute. Okay, I think a couple of minutes are done. Let's check whether the website is up and running or not. I'll select my EC2 user data demo, and I'm going to just use my public IP address, and I'll actually browse my website at public IP address. Let's see if all the steps are completed. You should get hello RPL champs. Yeah, see, you get it. You get hello RPL champs because all these steps got executed. All these steps got executed while the EC2 instance was launched. And in this is the new EC2 instance, EC2 user data demo, 13.233.3.128, 13.233.3.128. And then your Apache's web, you have installed Apache web server, and you created a new HTML file. And then you started the HTTPD service, and your website is up and running. Okay. So now this is just a very small sample, right? I mean, you can do a lot more complex things out here, right? I mean, you can actually clone a complete Git repository using a shell command, using a shell script that you pass here, and you can download your entire website at the time of EC2 launch using the user data, and then you can get it up and running. You can do all the configurations on your EC2 instance using, or on your application using the shell script, and it can be a lot more complicated shell script. This is quite simple, where we just did a small demo of installing web server, Apache web server, creating a new index.html and starting the web server, right? But this can get as complex as you want it to be. Okay, but you should know the concept that it is possible where you have something called user data, and at the time of launching an EC2 instance, you can pass the user data, whatever script or whatever file. You can even pass a file there, so that is going to get executed. If the script gets successful, it's going to get everything done, whatever you ask the script to do. It's a small example. I never logged into this. In fact, if you want, I can log into this now. 13.233.3.128, right? Okay, let me just log into that. I'll just say right click and click on new session, EC2 user at the rate 13.233.3.128. I'll give the key there. I'll use my RPL Mumbai lab key and say open. Yeah, I'm just logging in for the first time. If you can see, right? I'm just going here. I'll go to cd/where www. Yeah, cd HTML. Yeah, see, you have the index.html which you created through the user data script. Cat index.html. Yeah, so you have this HTML content there. Okay, sudo service httpd status. Yeah, it's running. Okay, so that's a quick example of how you use user data, and it's quite useful. And there's so many scenarios that possible. And I'm going to give you this thing. Okay, and you can basically read through this, and you can try multiple other things, using user data. Okay, you can also do the same thing on PowerShell, also on a Windows server also. This is for Windows Server actually. Okay, those who are Windows enthusiasts can actually follow the Windows side of things also. For those who are Linux enthusiasts, you can follow this. Okay, I'm going to teach one more thing, and we are going to kind of take a pause, and I'm going to give you assignment for today. Okay, so now instance metadata and user data. Okay, so now what is metadata? Can somebody tell me, the definition of metadata?
Data about data, sir.
Data about data. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Information.
Yeah, correct. Data about data is the right definition of metadata, right? So basically what, in this case, your EC2 instance, when you provision an EC2 instance, your EC2 instance has got so much of metadata attached to it, like such as its DNS name, public IP address, private IP address, size of the EC2 instance, how many elastic network interfaces it has got, and things like that, right? Host name. Now, instance metadata is a service with which you can use instance metadata to access user data that you specified when launch your instance, right? Basically, it's a service that AWS gives where you can query this service and get all the metadata information about your EC2 instance. Okay, and also you can use it to access your user data that you specified when launching your instance. For example, you can specify parameters for configuring, include a simple script. Okay, you can actually see all that. Okay, so now how do you access it? Click on this configure. Okay, so it actually runs a service called instance metadata service version 1 and version 2. Okay, so now both these, when you actually launch an EC2 instance, just go to launch an EC2 instance, select it. Yeah, so out here, if you see metadata version, right? If you see v1 and v2, metadata accessible, enabled or disabled, right? When you keep it by default, it is enabled. Version 1, version 2 are there, right? So for by default, this is enabled, but if you disable it, you won't be able to access the metadata. So now how do we access the metadata? I'll just show you. Okay, so now there are two versions available. First version is just a simple request response method. Second version is basically a service oriented method, right? So where by default, you can either use IMD as version 1 or version 2 or both. The instance metadata service distinguishes between version 1 and version 2 based on whether for any given request, either the put or get headers which are unique to IMD as v2 are present in that request. Okay, all of you know HTTP methods, right? Put, get, post, options, delete, and all that, right? So these are all HTTP methods. So at the end of the day, it uses HTTP. Okay. So how instance metadata service works? User service session oriented request. With session oriented request, you create a session token that defines the session duration, which can be a minimum of 1 second and a maximum of 6 hours. During the specified duration, you can use the same session token for multiple requests. After the session specified duration expires, you must create a new session token for use for further future requests. Okay, so now what you need to do is within the EC2 instance. Okay, let me just copy this into a text pad. Okay. So what you got to do is you first need to, in the Linux, you first need to instantiate a new variable called token, right? All of you know that, variables are used in Linux, in shell and shell scripting, correct? And you can use that variable within the shell bash as $token, correct? First, you need to create a token, okay, called token equal to curl. So curl, what is curl? Curl is a utility in Linux with which you can browse an URL, right? When you say curl, curl, we have used curl in the past, right? Curl google.com. Yeah, you get the google.com's thing out here, right? Output here. That's where curl is used, right? Curl -x, you're put as a HTTP method, right? You're putting something there, right? It's a put method. And this is the URL, okay? This is a standard URL for any EC2 instance. 169.254, 169.254, okay? That is where the EC2 instance metadata service is running and it's listening, okay? So that's part of every other, you can read more about that. Okay, so yeah, so that's where the metadata service is running, right? And what happens is when you query it, it basically queries the metadata about that instance and then it returns it back. So, but here first, what you're doing is you're basically doing a put HTTP method using a certain header. You're passing a header out here, right? -hs header. That this is the header that you need to pass to that, which where you are basically giving access for 21,600 seconds. Okay, so this token will be valid for 21,600 seconds. Okay, then what you're doing is you're doing a curl -h using this particular token. You need to pass this token every time. Okay, using this token, you're basically accessing the metadata. Okay, and you can use this will list all the data, right? Let's break this thing. What I'm first going to do is I'm first only going to take token here. So this actually combines both the, I'll just make it one single line. Yeah, this is one single line. So where I have token, I'll first create a token. So for that, I'll go to my EC2 instance. I'll first clear the screen and I'll right click. I'll execute this. Yeah, so it executed successfully. It's basically a curl, right? So it'll try to download something. Okay, which is fine. So now you want to know what the token is. You say echo dollar token. You'll actually see the token. So this is the token, unique token, which will be valid till the end of this session, 21,600 seconds. Okay, this will be the token which is valid. So now using this token, you can invoke your metadata service. Okay, and then you can get any data about the EC2 instance through this metadata service. Now let's execute the second portion of the command, which is this. Okay, I'll just say curl header is you're passing this as a header, right? X AWS EC2 metadata token TTL seconds is to 21,600. This is the token, and you're passing the token from the variable which is there in the shell, which is $token -v. This is the URL that you're invoking. Okay, let me just go back and I'll paste it. Yeah, I'll just paste it. Yeah, so if you see, it's actually fetching everything back from the service. It's basically HTTP method, right? HTTP, and it's responding with 200. 200 is successful, right? All of you know those HTTP response codes, right? What is 200? 200 is success. What is 402? HTTP 402. HTTP 502, 503. Okay, then you guys have to learn that. It's very important. It's an interview question. Okay, what are the HTTP methods and what are the HTTP response codes? Okay, very, very important, right? They'll ask you what is the response code for a successful HTTP request. You should say 200. Okay, and what is HTTP 4? So they'll ask what is 2xx, 4xx, 5xx mean. Okay, so you should be able to differentiate it. I'll give you some links to read. Okay, so in this case, it's a successful thing because it gave a 200 OK response. If you go down, it's actually giving me all the keys that I can query. Okay, so now here, what I can do is I can actually query. I want to know what is the IPv4 address. Okay, the local IPv4 address, not the public IPv4. You have two, public v4 IPv4 and local IPv4, right? I want to know what is the local IPv4 address. Okay, again execute it and say towards the end after that /latest/metadata give local -IPv4. Just hit that. Yeah, so it's actually giving the response here. Maybe it's, yeah, I'm just wondering where did it go? Yeah, it's here. So if you see, it's not formatting it properly, but yeah, it's giving the response here. 10.0.1.2.4.3. That's the local IPv4 address of it, right? Similarly, if I want public IPv4, I can just give, instead of local, I'll just say public. Yeah, so if you see, public is 37238.6. That is the public IPv4, right? And similarly, you want to understand few other things like host name. What do you want to understand? You want to understand the host name, right? Just type host name at the end of it. HOSTNAME. Yeah, this is the host name. IP 10.0.1.2.4.3.rpl.lab. Okay. All right. So that's how you make use of the instance metadata. It's quite useful, and you can actually use it in many scenarios where you want to automate something and you want to basically get the details about the EC2 instance. You can just use it, and these are all the keys that you can basically use. Okay, and okay, one thing that I wanted to show you was, okay, wait, specific. Hibernation, host name, instance creation, instance type, local host name, local IPv4 MAC, placement profile. Okay, I think profile. Let us see profile. Okay, default HVM, no, that's not the case. Okay, you can get security groups also. What security groups are associated with that? You can also get the metrics like CloudWatch metrics. Okay, that's fine. So yeah, so that's basically an introduction to what an instance metadata is all about. Okay, got it. So now let's come back. I think I'm going to give you some assignment for today, and then I'm going to let you go into your breakout rooms, right? And that kind of, one second, let me just quickly check. Kind of covered most of the EC2 instances we covered, right? Okay, I'll spend another 5 minutes to give you a little more concepts on reserved instances, dedicated hosts, and spot instances. Okay, so now if you can recall, when I started the session initially, I gave you a view of a sense of how large AWS data centers are, correct? So now, just give me a second. Yeah, I told you how massive the AWS data centers are, right? So now what happens is usually the way AWS manages the capacity is quite amazing. Okay, it's so fascinating the way AWS manages the capacity, because there are millions of customers that AWS has, right? And each customer would have requirements with respect to provisioning EC2 instances, provisioning storage, and things like that, right? Mainly on EC2, because EC2 is such a pillar of AWS, right? I mean, so that's where, if you see, AWS has to ensure that they keep enough capacity in the data center so that the data centers or regions don't run out of capacity. Okay, and they don't run out of capacity, and they are available to basically serve requests for customers whenever they come, right? Whenever I provision EC2 instance, I should be able to provision an EC2 instance, so there should be capacity left out, correct? So from that perspective, what AWS does is, uh, so they over provision their data centers and keep their data centers with over provision capacity, right? Because you never know when capacity would be needed for customers, right? At that point in time, AWS can't say that there's no capacity left out anymore, right? Which is basically defeating the whole purpose of moving to public cloud, because public cloud provides infinite capacity. Okay, so now what AWS does is they have a spare capacity, right? Excess capacity. Now, what that excess capacity is done is they auction the excess capacity through spot instances. Okay, spot instances are nothing but, they are instances. They're again EC2 instances only. But when you provision a spot instance, you get a very cheap price. It comes for almost like half or less than half, maybe 30% of your original EC2 instance cost. But the caveat there is, when you provision a spot instance, so it's like this, right? You go to, how many of you have bidding stuff on like eBay and things like that, right? Or even I think we also have OLX, right, where you bid, right, where you bid for certain price, and then if the price matches with the seller or buyer, you basically close the sale, correct? So similarly here also, you have to place a bid in spot instances, and you have to say that I need so and so. So if you go to request spot instances, it will ask you so many options, but I'm not going to go into those. Out here, if you see, yeah. So if you see, this is the spot price that the fleet request settings is giving. If you compare this with the original price, it's much lower than original price. You're saving up to 68% of cost by going with spot instances. Okay, where the excess capacity that AWS has got, AWS is offering you that excess capacity, where you can go bid for that excess capacity. You can take that excess capacity and you can use it for your use. But the caveat is, AWS can anytime reclaim this capacity back, where if they feel that they're running out of capacity, more and more customers are provisioning on demand and reserved instances where they are losing capacity. What AWS does is, without any notice, where they're not obliged to give a notice to you, notify you saying that I'm taking this capacity back and I'm going to use it back. Okay, where they say that, they straight away go deprovision your EC2 instance. Okay, so your EC2 instance suddenly will vanish off in thin air. In such cases, you have to be very careful. You have to use this only for EC2 instances where you're deploying some certain applications or certain workloads, where you feel even if you lose that EC2 instance, it's not going to impact your business. Right? Only in such cases you can go for it, or where you have identical. You need 200 EC2 instances identical. Right? Out of the 200, you can go for 100 with spot, and the rest of the 100 with on demand. because that way you're actually reducing your price by 50%, your overall cost by 50%. So, okay, and suddenly if something happens to those 100 EC2 instances, you're still okay with it because you are having the rest of the 100 EC2 instances available at your disposal, and you're able to actually use it. So that's the advantage. And so there's a lot of content available on spot instances. You can just read through the spot instances. It's quite interesting. Similarly, you also have something called reserved instances. Okay, reserved instances. Now, what we have been provisioning over the last 3 weeks are all on-demand instances, where you're provisioning it on demand. Reserved instances is where, again, reserved instances is a financial construct where it's a cost construct where you are you're buying some reservations. So, like say, for example, you're going to build a web application, or you're going to build a CRM or a ERP platform for your customers, and you're 100% sure that you're going to use this for the next 1 year or 3 years or several years for that matter, right? So in this case, what you can do is you can actually tell AWS that AWS, I'm going to make reservation. I need so and so instances available for the next 3 years. I'm giving you upfront. I'm telling you that this is the instances that I need for sure for the next 3 years. Will you be able to give me discounts? Because I'm willing to commit. Because at the end of the day, business is all about rotation of money and rotation of or activity happening on that particular business domain, right? So from that perspective, what customers would tell AWS is, I'm willing to commit on so and so instances for the next 3 years. Can you give me discounts? AWS says, oh, why not? Definitely. If you're willing to, commit the so and so workloads for the next 3 years, it becomes easy for me because I don't have to do the hard work of predicting what is going to be your usage and keeping you happy. Either I will keep this capacity reserved for you for the next 3 years for the so and so account. Plus, secondly, then AWS says, okay, fine. If you're willing to commit so and so for the next 3 years, I'll give you 30% discount. Okay, so now next step. Are you willing to pay half of that upfront? Like say for the next 3 years, customer is, the customer is going to get a bill of, let's say $100 on a certain specific EC2 instance types. What AWS asks is, are you willing to pay 50% of it upfront as one-time charge initially for the next 3 years, and then next 3 years you pay that remaining $50 every month? Okay, portion of the $50 every month, maybe $1 every month. So then customer says, oh, why not? I have funds now. I mean, even though I'm okay to kind of give it, I'll put it as a capital expenditure. I'm willing to pay the $50. So then the customer pays $50 to AWS. Then AWS says, oh, great. Then I'll give you more discount. Instead of 30% discount, I'm going to give you 50% discount if you are willing to pay partial upfront. Fair enough. Then AWS will ask, okay, customer, are you willing to pay 100% upfront for the next 3 years? Customer might think through, and customer might do his financial analysis and come back, and TC won't come back and say, okay, why not? I'm a cash rich organization. I'm able to pay you the entire thing upfront for the next 3 years because I'm committed to host on AWS. Then the customer would pay the entire $100 upfront. Then what AWS does is AWS gives 70% discount. Okay, so now that is how the reserved instances construct work. So reserved instances, there's so much of documentation available. You can just read through. Again, savings plan is also similar to reserved instances, where if a customer is willing to commit on a certain spend every month, then AWS gives discount. Okay, if I'm saying that I'm willing to spend $200 every month on AWS on compute, right? So then AWS gives you a discount saying that, okay, since you're going to spend $200 every month for the next 3 years, I will give you 40% discount or 30% discount. It's like this, right? So where you go to Geo Fiber, right? In Geo Fiber, I was just recently looking at the plans. Just go to the plans. You have several plans, right? Okay, it's exactly the same concept here, right? So you have a if you take 999 plan, right? If I'm just paying it monthly, I just pay 999 monthly, right? This plan 150 Mbps, I pay 999 monthly. If I'm willing to pay it quarterly upfront, okay, every quarterly, the first month of the quarter I'm willing to pay, then it reduces to 2997. If I'm willing to pay it semi-annually, it further reduces. If I'm willing to pay it annually, it further reduces 11,988. Okay, I'm actually reducing my overall this thing, right? So that's basically, I mean, a lot of customers, a lot of companies have this strategy to uh, you know reduce the burden on both customer and on themselves, so it works best for, it's a win-win situation for everybody. It's basically that construct. Again, dedicated host is again another construct where like when you provision an EC2 instance, it actually goes into one physical server, right? On sitting on some rack in the availability zone. Okay. So now what happens is the physical server where your EC2 instance is sitting can also house the EC2 instances of other customers. Okay, you don't have control over it. That is controlled by AWS. That's controlled by the underlying virtualization platform of the AWS. So even though they are logically segregated, right? Like the virtualization layer and the hypervisor layer takes care of logically segregating your virtual machine from my virtual machine. I won't be able to log into yours, you won't be able to log into mine. That segregation is there, but they're all sitting in one underlying physical hardware, right? So now sometimes you may say that I need the entire physical hardware only for me. Okay, the physical box that you get, that entire physical box server, you might say that I need the entire physical box only for me, only for hosting my workloads, where I will bring my software, my operating system, and I'll deploy it on top of it. In such case, you can go for the entire physical box. You can reserve the entire physical box. That is called dedicated host. Okay, and then it comes with the capacity, multiple capacities, such as it comes with 72 cores, 72 vCPUs. Okay, it comes with 96 vCPUs. Okay, if you go with 96 vCPUs, you can actually fill that 96 vCPU box with multiple different sizes. Like if you go for a C5 dedicated host, right, you can actually fill that C5 dedicated host with C5.large, C5.x large, C5.2x large, C5.4x large, and things like that. Okay, but it's belongs to that particular family only. You can't mix and match the families. You can only go with that particular family, but that entire dedicated boxes belongs to you, and you pay slightly higher premium for that because you're blocking the entire box for your consumption, right? It works very well for customers who have bring your own licenses. When I say bring your own licenses, I've got my own licenses of operating system and softwares. I am not going with AWS. I need only the box, physical box from AWS. Rest of it I'll take care. In such cases, dedicated host is quite helpful, quite useful. Okay, that's about dedicated host. Okay, load balancing and auto scaling is something that I'm going to teach you later on. Okay, when we build an application with AWS, I'm going to teach you how load balancers work and how auto scaling works. Right now, it may not really make sense for you. I'll come back to that probably in the subsequent weeks. But for now, I think we have completed EC2. EC2 is one of the most powerful and important service in AWS. So all of you will have to get your hands quite dirty with EC2, right? And EC2 is very, very important, and you need to understand the the nuances of EC2 service. You need to understand the nitty-gritties of how EC2 works. Okay, so I think that kind of brings us to the closure of EC2. From tomorrow, I'm going to actually start with IAM, Identity and Access Management. Okay, I'm going to give you some assignment for today. And you can go into your breakout rooms and start doing these assignments. 4th November. Okay, 4th November. What did we see today? We looked at Windows EC2 instances and user data, EC2 user data. I'm just going to give you this, okay? Connecting to your Windows EC2 instance. Yeah, so it basically gives you the same steps that I gave you. You give your key file and you retrieve your password for the EC2 instance. Yeah, administrator password, right? Give you this. EC2 user data. I'm just going to give you EC2 user data here. This is for Linux. This is for Windows. Okay, and then EC2 instance metadata. Okay, so assignment is I'm sorry, I think I got disconnected. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm audible now, right? Okay, fine. Okay, just share my screen. Okay, so first is EC2 user data Linux. So boot up your public EC2 instance. Okay, you don't have to boot up. So just provision a new EC2 instance. Amazon Linux 2 AMI. In step 2, go to the user data section, provision a new public EC2 instance, okay? Section, and put the following script. Yeah, launch the instance. Select, ensure you select the security groups. Okay, I'm not going to be too descriptive or spoon feed. Okay, you guys know by now, right? What you need to do if you have to get your website up and running. What do you need to do? Which port you need to open?
80, sir.
80, right? Ensure you select the security group that has TCP port 80 open to 0.0.0.0/0. Yeah. Launch the instance and wait for 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah, and go to your browser and access this. You should be able to see the hello world page. Okay. Now that's the user data. Okay, next is EC2 instance metadata. Okay, so for EC2 instance metadata, I mean, you can log into the same putty to your public EC2 instance, any public EC2 instance, that's okay. Okay, so one more thing for EC2 instance metadata is, see, in your VPC, I mean, you have a setting in VPC which says for the DNS, right? Enable DNS resolution and enable DNS host names. So you have to ensure that, that setting is enabled. Yeah, out here, you need to have those two DNS resolution and DNS host names enabled, okay? So you can go here, edit DNS host names, make it enabled, edit DNS resolution, make it enabled. Because for instance metadata, you need to get the DNS public DNS record for the EC2 instance, okay? So you have to ensure that. Okay, put it to your public EC2 instance and run the following commands. Okay, slash pass the key here, okay, so that you'll get the value. Once you pass the key, use the specific key and get the value printed on the screen, the terminal. Okay, then clean it up. Clean up all resources created during this lab. Okay. Okay, cool. I'm going to send this file. So please go through the file. Okay, and
Hello.
yeah.
Hello. Sir, actually you segregated the volume data 1 and data 2 in Windows instance, right?
Yeah.
Those will be charged from our monthly quota of 30 GB.
Sorry, come again.
When you have created Windows Server instance,
Mm-hmm.
in the disk 2 you have created
Yes.
two partitions, right?
Yes,
Data 1 and
correct.
data 2.
Yeah, so
Those will be
you provision only 30 GB, no? So you provisioned, see, your EBS volume is only 30 GB. So you'll be only charged for the 30 GB. See, within that 30 GB, you are creating two separate partitions. That's okay. You won't be charged for making two separate partitions because you are anyways within the 30 GB limit. So you don't have to create a 30 GB. You can just create maybe just for the heck of it, create 5 GB, no? But ensure that you deprovision it immediately. You terminate that instance immediately. So then you're not going to cross. See, on an average, right, cumulative entire month, they will look at how many hours of EBS that you're running, how many GB hours per month that you're running. Even if you provision 30 GB, that's okay. That's not a problem. If you're running it for a couple of hours, then terminate it. You won't be charged.
but for a month we have been given only 30 GB of space, right?
Yeah, that is for the entire month.
Yeah. Okay.
So it is not 30 GB space. It is 30 GB per month. GB month is the metric. Okay, GB month is very different from just GB, correct? So 30 GB month is, you can keep a 30 GB volume running for the entire month, which is 750 hours. Or you can provision, say, 50 GB, keep it running for 2 hours and shut it down or delete it. Same as how it happens in the EC2 instance also, right? It's basically the same concept here also. So when you actually look at the bill, no, if any of you have got your bills generated, you can just go to the cost explorer and check that. Okay, well, you will see that you will have the 30 GB per month. You know, you wouldn't have exceeded the 30 GB month metric in your bills. Okay.
Sir, we
And
created a life
this is
cycle yesterday.
because it's
Can
an
we see
average.
the snapshots now?
Sorry, which one?
We created life cycle yesterday, right? For snapshots.
Okay, good, very good. Thanks for reminding me. So who's this?
Z004, sir.
Z004. Okay, cool. Thanks for him. In fact, a couple of them have reminded me in the chat as well. Yeah, I'm going to show you that. Okay, is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to go to snapshots. Okay, so yeah, here you go. Okay, so here if you see, I applied a snapshot policy for an instance which has a tag as purpose web server, right? So now let's first go here and check whichever EC2 instance has got purpose as web server. Purpose as web server. There's only one EC2 instance and that has got two volumes associated with it. Two volumes, one 8 GB and one 30 GB, right? So it would actually go and take the snapshot of all this. So if you see here, yeah. So 8 GB, how many it is doing? 1, 3, and even 30 GB. If you see, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So now, ideally speaking, every 4 hours it should store up to 6, right? 6 snapshots. Okay, but it is actually storing, 5. But ideally, it should store only 4. Correct? Maybe one snapshot would have just taken, and it is in the process of cleaning up the older one. But anyways, if you see, between yesterday and today, 24 hours, we were supposed to have 6 snapshots, but you don't have 6 snapshots. You only have 5. Okay, or rather, assume only 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 are there. Fifth one was just created. Now it's in the process of actually going ahead and deleting the fifth one. But at any point in time, if you see, right, it will only like have about 4 or 5 snapshots retained. It won't retain. In fact, I'll leave it like this. I'll come back tomorrow, and then again I'll show you. Maybe after 48 hours, we'll see how many snapshots it is retaining. Okay, ideally in this case, if you're not having a lifecycle policy, it would keep the snapshots. How many? 6 plus 6, 12 snapshots it has to keep, but it won't have 12 snapshots. It'll have like 4 or 5. So that is the idea of creating a lifecycle manager in snapshots. I'm going to leave it like this for the next 2 to 3 days, so that you can. We'll review this every day and see how many snapshots it is retaining. Okay. All right. So yeah. So let's kind of wrap the session for today, and then please get into the breakout rooms and continue with today's assignment. And I'll see you all tomorrow. And we will start with IAM tomorrow. And plus tomorrow, what we are going to do is we are also going to spend some time on what sort of job opportunities you're going to have, and how do you basically tap into those job opportunities, specifically on the AWS opportunities perspective. Okay, all right. Thank you. Thanks all for joining. Thanks, Sai Krishna. Thanks, mentors, and thanks, Ravi. Over to you.
Sure, Anna, thank you.